What's going on, guys? My name is Nicholas Martin here at Data Dash, and today we're going to be talking about everything related to cryptocurrency in the news. First off, on the big headline, Bitcoin. Are we expecting a continued pullback towards the SegWit update later this month, or are we going to have to start looking for some buy points after the recent rebound we had today? Second off, we're going to be talking about Ethereum and Ethereum Classic skyrocketing after going on to Chinese exchanges. Speaking of China, we're also going to be talking about both China and Japan and other Asian markets adopting cryptocurrencies into their daily lives and how this could be really beneficial in the long-term potential of actually utilizing cryptocurrencies, pushing up values in the long term. And fourth, I'm going to be talking about a cryptocurrency that I've been watching for quite some time and how I've been really looking into the information around it and why I think it'd be a great choice for your long-term portfolio. All that and much more coming in the video up ahead. So guys, let's jump in to the data. Alright guys, let's jump right into the first headline, Bitcoin. A lot of people are wondering whether or not the price action is going to continue to go down or we're going to go up, and the world's just going crazy over it because Bitcoin's always in the headlines if you're talking about cryptocurrencies. And it's understandable. It's the big dog, and we have gone a long way down. To be fair, whether you're bullish or bearish, we have gone a long way up, and we've gone a long way down from 3,000 to 2,400 practically. It's a pretty big pullback in any kind of respect to any market. However, we've also had a great uptrend in Bitcoin. We have seen a definite adoption of the cryptocurrency market, and because of the altcoin market, Bitcoin has become even more valuable as being used as a means of exchange for all the other potential in other altcoins. So as the altcoin market grows, Bitcoin grows. It might lose its dominance, but its price is still going to continue to grow. So before we start looking at this in a technical stance, I really want to really grind in the idea of looking at this as a long-term investment. If you get the price, let's say for example, there's going to be either two ways this is going to, the price is going to move over the next few weeks towards the end of the month. We're either going to realize that the SegWit update doesn't have much fear, really any actual substantial fear behind it, and a lot of it was just misinterpretation, uncertainty, and we're going to see let me see if I can get the line tool. There we go. Actually, let me see if I can get a segment tool. That would be better. Awesome. We're going to see a return back to this level, and hopefully it doesn't go back to this position. But if you are on the bullish side and you're holding Bitcoin, you could see it possibly test back up here towards the 3,000 level towards the end of the month. And if the SegWit update goes great, then it'll pass 3,000. That's pretty much the likelihood of what's going to happen. Now that's in the bullish case scenario. If you're looking for the bearish case and looking to hopefully get Bitcoin at a discount, you need a return back to these lows. This is pretty basic fundamental analysis. Bitcoin isn't that hard to analyze. You just have to think in the way of how it's previously moved. And in most trading scenarios, you're going to find that in these kind of case scenarios where we've had a huge ramp up, we're going to find a double bottom. So we're going to see the price action kind of circulate back upwards, maybe test 2,500, and then it's going to come back down, test this price level, and we might see a continued sell-off towards the SegWit update. Now, like I said, guys, I don't really have an opinion, or I don't know, I might have not mentioned it. I don't really have an opinion on the SegWit update. This is a catalyst, though. A catalyst to either push up prices after annihilating the fear, or it could really be substantial fear and things could go wrong and it really could push the price down. Or at least just the fear and worry of it could really start to generate and as we move towards it. So yeah, I think you've got really those two scenarios, and we can assess how we're going to approach those. Either way, like I said, I want to emphasize any price you can get at Bitcoin right now, whether you get it at 3,000, whether you get it at 2,500, whether you get it at 2,000, or if you get it below that, if there's a big sell-off with the SegWit update. Bitcoin is a long-term investment. You have to look at it that way. And getting it at any of these prices is a golden opportunity for the long term. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the adoption and the long-term potential of Bitcoin I'm not going to give you any predictive prices, though. A lot of people say, we here at Morgan Stanley, or we here at Goldman Sachs, or we here at this website, or me as an individual, I see Bitcoin going to 5,000 or 10,000. Or I see Bitcoin going into the trash. No one really knows where it's going. However, if you actually do your research and you have optimism tied to cryptocurrencies, if you really view the future of cryptocurrencies as something worth investing, you have nothing to worry about if you're just looking to invest in the long term. Now, if you're trying to pinch pennies, you're just going to stress and look at the hourly chart, or actually probably the 1 minute chart, more likely, 24/7, just stressing about, oh my God, can I get Bitcoin at the right price? You don't want to be doing that, and you're not going to be making more money that way. That's how people lose money in crypto markets. You have to have patience, just like in any other financial market. So let's talk a little bit about the rebound as we go here to the hourly. I'm going to try and be real quick about this because we got some other topics we want to talk about, and I understand that a lot of this is pretty basic. So as we can see here, I'll be honest with you all, I thought this was going to be a traditional double bottom, and right now it doesn't seem like it's doing it. Right now it's slowly uptrending back up, and it got back over the high of the curve in the double bottom, or what was looking to be a double bottom. So it looks like we're almost kind of escaping this. The only way that we're truly going to escape the sell-off, though, is if we get back up to these price levels around, I'm assuming this is around the $2,500 level. Oops. Let me get the crosshair. There we go. Yeah, so around the $2,500 level. Exactly was what we were looking at right there. The $2,500 level is where you're going to have to really look towards settling for some buy points and looking for the outcome to start ascending towards the end of the month, towards 3,000. And once the SegWit update comes through, I'm assuming things will go well and it will go past 3,000. And it was not, I don't know if it's going to moon or anything like that, but it could definitely start continuing past 3,000 and really almost be unstoppable for a few years. So it's either we're moving towards a new paradigm where Bitcoin is going to go to all new highs, or we're going to go down to new lows. Like I said, the level that matters here is 2,500. Now, let's think about it in the bearish case scenario. What if the price does pull back and fear continues to build towards the SegWit update? This is, in my opinion, a perfect time to buy and start setting some price levels. Where I would first start to look, if we're going to actually get a double bottom in the price levels on the daily and start breaking through the previous lows of our downtrend, I would start looking to add small positions at 2,000. I don't think we're going to get as big of a sell-off as we have in previous sell-offs. It's not going to be a 60 to 80% pullback like we've seen in the past. It's going to be something much more substantial, around 30 to 40%, and at worst case scenario, maybe 50%. This would be with serious fear in the market. It might have to cross over to the SegWit update where there might actually be something bad happening with the update, but I don't really see that happening. So I really think you could see any of these kind of areas down here on the uptrend where you probably get just start adding increments after 2,000, and I think if you can get it down to 1,500, which would be amazing, load up on Bitcoin and just hold it for the long term, or invest in your altcoins, whatever you want to do. So yeah, just start adding slow increments once it goes past 2,000. I think that's going to be a steady point where you can start making a long-term investment and get Bitcoin at a nice discount compared to where it is now. Save $400 compared to what you normally pay. So anyways, guys, that's it for analyzing Bitcoin. Like I said, I want to keep kind of without an opinion on this because really no one knows what's going to happen over the next few months. It's all about simple approaches and what we can do to hopefully ride out in the long term and make some really good profits off of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. All right, guys. So next up, I want to talk about Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. I think it was just well-deserved after the crazy sell-off in Ethereum. Now, I don't think Ethereum had quite a fast run up, and I think it was well overdue for a pullback. However, going from 400 down to I think around it was a little bit under 200, around $180 in a few weeks. That's pretty steady in the sense of sell-off. That reminds me of the old days of Bitcoin back in 2013, where we had a drastic sell-off after the huge pump to 1,000. But nonetheless, I'm not negative on Ethereum and stuff, and I really think it shows some positive signs that Ethereum and Ethereum Classic are getting picked up in Chinese markets. Now, in a fundamental standpoint, does this really change anything? Not really. It just shows that China is in heavy demand for these currencies, and they're not just in love with Bitcoin. They're in love with the idea of mining. They're in love with the idea of crypto exchanges and markets. And you can know this if you trade in traditional markets like I have myself. I've traded in I've traded equities for about 5 to 6 years of my life. I started out pretty early. China back in 2015 had a bubble in the Shanghai Composite, which is one of their major exchanges for Chinese equities. And in the Shanghai Composite, we saw a huge ramp up. It was a multitude of hundreds of percentages of return on the major index. And the reason was is that we saw what we saw during the dot-com bubble in the sense of retail investors, people like you and I who are much smaller than the big hedge funds and billionaires who make huge movements in the markets. It was a lot of smaller investors going into the market and flooding and paying higher, pretty much always consistently paying the ask price and pushing up equity values. And a lot of hedge funds and big investors take advantage of this. And it's all due to, if you study Chinese culture and stuff, a very big thing that has been growing ever since China's been developing a middle class and people have started to industrialize is gambling. And in a sense too, there's a sense of pride in owning stock in China and owning these cryptocurrencies, because if they're traded in China or if they're founded in China, for example, Ant shares is a big one that a lot of people are talking about being the next Ethereum. These coins are seen as something to be proud of, much like it is to hold stocks that are based on Chinese companies. And this is what really pushed the whole retail investor in China to getting into stocks. And I think we're seeing the same thing with crypto. I think it's great to see adoption from average everyday people in China, people going out and building these huge mining warehouses and really starting to mine Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Seeing China get onto the plate here is really big news. And I think it's going to attract a lot of U.S. investors, which is really going to prop up the movement here. It's going to start getting a lot of firms and hedge funds looking at this and seeing that, cryptocurrency is here to stay, and it's got a lot more growth in the future as it becomes adopted in society. So I think this is great news. Good on Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. Now, for those of you who are holding it for the long term or who held it through this period, what is my recommendation? I honestly wouldn't say to sell. A lot of people would say once you've made a 30 or 40% return to go ahead and sell it. But here's the thing. Ethereum has had a ridiculously large pullback after its ridiculously large run-up. And the amount of press and coverage and positivity behind Ethereum is not stopping. So I think that after this pullback, there's a lot more room to run up. And Ethereum Classic is showing a lot of signs alongside coins like Litecoin and things like that, where there's a lot of potential to really grow up and become one of the next big coins. So I think if you got holdings in either of these, you really just don't have to worry, and just look at this as yet another good milestone for the advancement of these coins and cryptocurrencies in general. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about selling it, and if you've got positions in them, you made money, good on you. That was a pretty smart decision. It was pretty easy though to spot too, in the sense that this was going on Chinese markets. This was kind of due to happen. So anyways, putting that aside, I want to start talking about Asian market adoption within cryptocurrency now that we're on the topic of China. First off, I want to talk a little bit about Japan though, with the list of articles that I have up here. This was an article back on March 7th of 2014 where Bitcoin was stated to not be a currency under the government of Japan. Back in 2014, it was not seen as a currency, okay? And I'm going to show you just how crazy the transition has been in under 3 years. To say that something is not a currency, something that can be used as a means of exchange, is a pretty large statement. Go to this article at CoinDesk. Japan. Bitcoin law goes into effect tomorrow. And read what it says right here in the headline. Japan is set to begin recognizing Bitcoin as a legal method of payment starting tomorrow. I know it's 3 years, and I understand we're living in an age of technology where it advances even faster than day by day by day. However, this is showing a major trend in how Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are being adopted into daily life. This is something that really has some substance to it. And I don't really like to just refer to articles to make me bullish on things, but if you look at the trend of news, you can really get a change of tone, especially while we're in this early age before the cryptocurrency has really been adopted. Bitcoin is not known by the mass majority of people. I bet if you went around to 98 to 99% of people, I think they've done studies on it in the U.S. alone, and it's a fraction of people who know even what a Bitcoin is. Think about what's going to happen when these people, even the small category of people who just know about it, start using Bitcoin and start investing in Bitcoin. Think about what happens when you get it on a global scale. And I think there's a really interesting article that showed the scale of Bitcoin. I'm going to link it down below. Market Watch did a really cool infographic where they showed Bitcoin being such a small market industry, even though it's at 80, I guess not 80 billion. Total cryptocurrencies are around 80 to 90 billion, but Bitcoin being around the 40 billion to 35 billion dollar mark. Compared to overall currency markets, it is a huge difference, and there's so much potential in it in the long term. So if you're here right now, you're in the right boat. But yeah, so what's really interesting is that there's going to be a lot of growth in the price over the next few years because people are actually starting to see Bitcoin as a viable means of exchange. And it's cool to see this in Asian markets. I really wish we'd see it more in US markets. There are a lot of great startups and some cool companies that are taking in, a lot of e-commerce, Amazon, I think Lowe's, home appliances is taking Bitcoin if you use their online store. So it is really cool to see some big names taking this on as adoption, and I don't think there's enough media coverage around it. The fact that over 260,000 stores in Japan, this is a great headline, 260,000 stores in Japan are going to be using Bitcoin this summer. They're going to be accepting it as a means of exchange. That's huge. That in 260,000 stores, you can expect a variety of different industries in different locations in Japan. I mean, that is just huge news for the long term of cryptocurrency. And as it's going to snowball, it's just going to keep on building, guys, as the adoption continues to grow. And that's why you should be really eager to really get a hold of cryptocurrency while it's early. So Asian markets are taking it on. I hope we can see it in continued U.S. markets, and maybe we'll even see it in developing countries. I think it's something that's going to be adopted pretty quickly over the next 5 to 10 years. And then also, this is a really cool article I wanted to show you all just to kind of get an idea of what I was talking about with the mining facilities in China. Here's a really cool photo shoot that Quartz posted from, I can't remember what journalist it was, but this is a really cool article that shows a lot of visual photos about the mining process and how people are really getting into setting up huge mining rigs in China. And this isn't rare anymore. It's becoming very common. Chinese markets, along with most general Asian markets, are getting very interested in this. And to think that there's going to be more people mining and there's going to be more people wanting to come in and buy these coins, as we saw with Ethereum Classic and Ethereum today, that's some big stuff. So I wouldn't take this lightly. Just slowly start picking up on the trends and realizing this is going to be here to stay. All right, guys, so we got over a lot of the big headlines. We're going to start looking at a few coins that I've got listed up on Bittrex, and then we're going to be talking about a coin that I see a lot of long-term potential in. All right, so Ethereum, let's do a little bit of analysis. I know we talked about it earlier. Big rebound after sell-off. I think that, like I said, it's been quite oversold. What's nice here is if you look at it in very simple terms, look at the Bitcoin right here, the Bitcoin value for Ethereum, 0.15. Do you notice anything on a percentage basis, a very simple, big even percentage basis from 15 to 7.5? Just kind of break it down as if they were standard integers. 15 to 7.5. That's a 50% pullback, all right? And that is pretty standard in technical analysis. Remember we were talking about Bitcoin having those big haircuts. That's what a lot of people call it in markets, where you have a haircut where it's dropped 30%, 50%, 60%, 80%, really big even numbers. 50% is very common in crypto markets. And that is a good sign to get some Ethereum right now. The fact that it came up with such a strong rebound on pretty decent volume after a lot of kind of like lackluster selling volume and price as the price got pushed down as well. We can really start to see Ethereum providing a pretty good buying opportunity here. So if you're long Ethereum for the long term, might buy some here and try to see if you can ride it back to the about, I think, I would say somewhere around this level up here. And if we get past that, Ethereum could go back and test the $400 level up here. So that's it for Ethereum. Let's go ahead and look at Ant shares. Now, I know a lot of people have been talking about Ant shares. They see it as China's Ethereum. And like I said, I'm pretty optimistic on it. However, I look at it in a technical standpoint. And I don't want to jump too early on the ship. I think you can get Ants at a cheaper price. Right now, we're at around 274,000 Satoshis. And I think what we could see is a pullback down to the really the 200,000 level down here. So I think patience is really going to pay on this. What we're seeing, in my opinion, is a descending wedge. And a descending wedge is usually a bullish trend. So for those of you who are long, don't worry about it. You can keep holding, or you can start adding to your position once it gets lower. I think we're going to see an uptrend on this one. A lot of coverage has come to it. It's one of China's big cryptocurrencies, and I think that with the growing adoption of it, I think you could see Ant shares really take off towards the $50, $60, and $70 level, and really might be the next Ethereum. I don't know though. I can't back up the claim, and I don't want to recommend you just dumping money into it. However, this could be a big one, guys. Cryptocurrencies tend, if you get the right one, they tend to really explode, and this one's been holding up relatively well after such a good run up. And really is mimicking old price history of Ethereum. So keep an eye on Ant shares. I like this one. Alrighty, let's see what else we got here. Okay. Now on to the coin of choice that I've been watching. I guess my webcam's a little bit in the way, but we'll go ahead and look at it on coinmarketcap.com. Numeraire is one of my favorite coins now for the long term. I've been doing a lot of research into a lot of different cryptocurrencies and their technology, their dev teams, and by doing that, you learn that there's a lot of crap coins on the altcoin market. I really recommend you do your research before you put your money in anything for the long term. But Numeraire, sorry, it's kind of a hard name to pronounce. I'd recommend the name change. That'd probably be my one criticism. But outside of that, the market cap is relatively low. It's at 37 million right now. It was just recently ICO'd back, I think, during late June. Yeah, we can see over here it went on to Bittrex and a lot of other exchanges. And I really like how Numeraire is based on data science. Now, if you guys don't know much about me, I'm mostly focusing on data analytics, and I do have a passion and hope to really get into data science. I know a lot about the fundamental concepts and kind of the theory behind machine learning and all sorts of things related to those topics. But Numeraire has a very interesting concept, which I'm going to go a little bit in depth of what that is. So the white paper is pretty small. I'm not going to really go through and describe it through this because I think I could do a much better job going through a few different articles and recommending a few interviews to you guys. The big one here is that Numeraire is a coin that's based around, and the technology is based around financial markets. So in traditional markets, such as stock exchanges, hedge funds will try to use, they'll use a lot of different technologies related to data science. The major one being quantum trading. And this is using large, massive data sets, usually a price action, to try to beat to the market and predict what's going to happen. Now, they're usually done through micro investing. And what happens is you usually collect data on a large sum of, let's say, 100 stocks. And you make all these calculations, and you find out the probability of making a return at buying at XYZ price for a certain asset. And if it's 60%, you'll usually jump in and put a little bit of a micro investment into that. And you do this with 100 different stocks, a multitude of different stocks. It's really, there's no limit to the scale of it. And this has been a proven profitable way of trading. However, a lot of this has been kind of kept close within the hedge fund market, and it hasn't been really made public. And along with that, the benefits of doing all this research has been kind of kept in these big corporate finance companies. So Numeraire is kind of here to change that, and it's here to give data scientists an opportunity to make a pretty decent earnings off of helping contribute to Numeraire's technology. So what exactly is Numeraire and its technology? Well, Numeraire basically collects large, massive amounts of data sets, much like a normal hedge fund would go out and try to do through its very centralized networks that most people don't have access to. But Numeraire can get large data sets, and what it's going to do is it's going to send these data sets to people who do data science and who know the concepts of machine learning and how to do quantitative analysis of information and data. And what they'll do is these individuals who go into these quote-unquote competitions, they'll submit their results with their different calculations, different algorithms, and different approaches to taking the data and finding trends with it. Now, they don't know what this data is, and if you go to the video interview I have right here, this is a really good interview sit down with Richard, who is the founder of the coin and its technology. I really recommend you sit down and listen to this. It's about 6 to 7 minutes. It really gives you a good analysis of really what this is. But basically, it's printed out in numbers, and people use different forms of algorithms to find what the probability is of a certain asset being returned. But the thing is, these people don't know about it. The only people who know that this is correlated, this data that's going to be coming out and what it's correlated with is Numeraire. And they're going to use that for investments in the market. Now, how does it stand out against a traditional, people who use traditional algorithmic trading in hedge funds? Well, whereas in a hedge fund, you have people who maybe are in a team of like 5 or 6 people working at the hedge fund who specialize in data science and making algorithmic trading formulas. You only have about 5 to 6 people there, but in Numeraire's technology, they have thousands of scientists already who are working to break down this data, plug it into their algorithms, and find probability. Now here's the kicker, and the kicker that really makes this a really cool technology. You're comparing 5 people doing algorithmic investing compared to thousands. Now, what do you feel a little more safer in doing? Do you feel a lot safer in betting on the probability of 5 algorithms or thousands of them? And that is where Numeraire's technology really stands out and why it is such a cool coin. Now, basically, how do the coins, in this case, they're not mined, they're minted. So it's a really interesting way about how it's distributed. They issued about 1 million to the 12,000 data science based on their performance and the current Numeraire tournaments. However, there's always going to be tournaments to break down this data. And there is a limit, much like Bitcoin, of around 21 million. So there's a few more still to be distributed and minted throughout the process. However, 21 million is limited, and it's going to get harder to get those Numeraires, just like Bitcoin. So there's a lot of good selling points. It has very interesting technology behind it that's tied with the finance market, which is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. You also have a limited supply of 21 million, so it's going to get harder for data scientists to earn these coins, and they're going to work harder and harder and crunch more numbers and bring in higher results, or at least work harder to provide positive results for Numeraire in financial markets. So there's a lot of big selling points. It's like Bitcoin. It forms that exponential curve that's really going to give Numeraire a competitive edge in financial markets, and also give the coin that's tied with the technology much more value over time. So that's my cryptocurrency that I think that has a lot of potential in the long term. And I'm not saying put all your money into it, guys. With anything, you got to do your own research. You got to really give it some time and really think about it. However, though, I am definitely adding some Numeraire now that it's at a discount towards my portfolio when I get the chance. If you guys like the technology, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear what you guys think. If you guys got any criticisms of it, if there's anything that I didn't really mention with it, I'd love to hear it from you guys, because I'm still trying to learn. I really love learning about all these different altcoins and looking for the real potential in some of the actual coins that have good dev teams, that have a good strategy behind them, and also have a real purpose to it, rather than just being some kind of crappy coin that's just trying to pump and dump on the market exchange. So Anyways, guys, we covered pretty much anything. I know that was a very long video, but I appreciate you all sticking around. If you made it through the video, please give it a like, and hopefully you can subscribe to the channel if you guys like the content I produce. There'll be more videos coming soon on cryptocurrencies and a variety of other topics related to data science, data analytics, and market trends. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching. This has been a really nice time talking with you all about this, and there's more news to come. So stick around and subscribe to Data Dash. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next video.